Barayako. Do you want to move to Africa, visit some nations in Africa? One of the things you don't want to do is have in the mind that you're going to move to Africa, but you want to live like you're in America. Let's talk about this. So, moving to Africa, I can only speak for Kenya because I moved here back in November of 2024. But I find something very interesting as I see the popularity. You look at YouTube and you probably see a lot of news lately about a great exodus of Black Americans coming to Kenya. Well, I think if you count all the Black Americans here, maybe less than 1,000 people. It's not a great migration. There are some, yes, like myself, who have come to Kenya, not to escape America, but to impart life and build community development and to create jobs in Kenya. But there are some who come seemingly with the idea of escaping the American nightmare, or they're looking to get away from what they say police brutality or racism and things as such. And they want to come to, say, Nairobi, it's the capital city of Kenya, and they want to move to all the luxury areas. They're basically living in America, in Kenya. There's so much more that this country has to offer, and it depends on what your reasons for relocating or visiting the country. Relocation is not for everyone. First of all, everyone's not in a financial position to relocate to Kenya. You simply don't have the financial resources that would sustain your life here. And of course, if you're in America, most people may not have enough savings to make a trip to Africa or to Kenya. So I always tell people who contact me a lot about, hey, I'm looking to visit Kenya, I will think about moving to Kenya. How can I relocate? Well, there are several steps you have to take and to make sure that you can meet either the long-term resident requirement. And I talked a lot about that in some previous videos. I'll try to post a link in the description of this video. But it's very easy to visit Kenya. It's a 90-day visa that they offer to you, called an electronic travel authorization. That's the first step anyway, is that if you're going to move to any country or any city or any state, even in America, it's always best to visit that place, get familiar with the environments that you're going to be living in and what the experience and ideas and behaviors of the people are before you make that decision. So I didn't have to go through any of that process. I had a purpose for being here. I knew why I was coming. I knew what I was going to do once I got here. Finances was not an issue, as I have a company and my income comes from the U.S. So I'm free to pursue my passions here in Kenya without any of that restriction or stress in my life. And most people are simply not in that situation. So if that's you, and you still have a desire to, say, visit Kenya or whatever other country in Africa or anywhere else around the world, it's a big world with lots of places and lots of spaces for you to enjoy and to discover life for yourself. But if Kenya is one of the locations, then yes, it does have a lot to offer those who would like to come and visit. I always talk about the weather, talk about the affordability. I'll talk about the kindness and polite people, and there's beautiful landscapes and wildlife galore. It's a very beautiful country. But I somewhat puzzled by those who say I've moved to Kenya and I've interacted with Kenyan people and you've never left Nairobi. You've never left the bougie areas of Westlands, Parklands, Kileleshwa, Kilimani. And you seem to marvel about the malls in Africa as if there are no malls in big cities and skyscrapers in America. There's a mindset that some people still have that Africa is backwards, that they're still living primitive in comparison to where you're from. If you're in America, you think Africa is still primitive. Everybody's living in huts, walking around with grass skirts and bones through their noses and such. So thanks, there are some tribal people who still live close to their ancestral ways, but the majority of Africa, and I can only speak directly about Kenya because that's where I've been living, There are modernized cities, just like in America. There are modern cities, there are small towns, there are rural areas, and Kenya is no exception. So when I came here to Kenya, I knew, like I said, I knew what reason I was coming. I knew the purpose that I had in mind. You may have seen some of the videos of our Paradise Salai mission base under development now. I knew I had a mission for humanitarian work, job creation, economic development, educational opportunities, and such. So I'm fully engaged in those activities around different parts of Kenya. I chosen not to live in Nairobi. I chose to live in Nakuru and to develop our mission base in the village of Salai. So if you're coming through Kenya, you want to visit, some easy steps to do. First, get your U.S. passport or whatever country you're from. If you're from Europe or Caribbean islands, get your passport, apply for the ETA, schedule your trip. Airlines, many airlines serve this particular country. Most people fly into Nairobi, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And then you can take in some of the city life of Nairobi, if that's what interests you. If the oceans, beach life interests you, then there's Mombasa, Diani Beach, small towns like Nakuru. They have western side of Kenya where Kisumu is, where Lake Victoria. So much to take in. But for those of you who are really looking at coming to immerse yourself into the Kenyan culture, you're going to have to get away from the cities. Get out into the rural, small town, rural areas, and you really learn to interact with people. Now, just as in America, if you're from the South, where I'm from, you're different than the people who were raised and brought up in Northeast. I'm from a small community in South Carolina. Someone who grew up in New York City would have a totally different outlook and experience in life. If you grew up in California, your experience is different. If you grew up in the Midwest, your experience is different. In the Northwest, in Seattle. Same is true here in Kenya. If you're from Western Kenya, the people are very different than the people that live on Mombasa on the coast. So you have to see that, find a place where you connect with people and coming with a purpose in mind, in my case, to sow into the lives of the people. So why do you want to come? What do you plan to do when you're here? Are you planning on staying short term just for a visit? Or are you trying to plan to retire, have a long-term residency here? Those are some of the questions you need to answer as you think about moving, visiting, or relocating to Kenya. I can help you navigate through some of those processes because I've already went through them. I came with a visa, 90-day ETA, but then I later applied for the Class K Ordinary Resident Permit, which I now have, which allows me to live in Kenya up to 3 years. So I went through a lot of the processes, and I can help point you to some of the directions that I had to go to get to this point. But yeah, I've moved myself and my wife. We're here in Nakuru now, but we're developing our mission base in Salai. And it's so beautiful to interact with the Kenyan people. We've been able to invest in several businesses that are now employing Kenyans so that they can have sustainable income. One of the things I believe in strongly is teaching people how to fish, not giving them a fish. Because if you give a person a fish, you have to continually do that over and over again. I believe that we should be creating opportunities for people to have a sustainable life for themselves. There's something about the way the world views Africa. I'm talking about European worlds, because most of the countries that came to colonize the continent were European countries. The people who founded America were from Europe, European countries. And we know that the slave trade began because Europeans needed free labor to help colonize other nations and to develop the soil and things like that. And that brought about a certain feeling of superiority and inferiority from pretty much white people to black people, where whites, so to speak, grabbed a attitude of superiority and that Africans needed them in order to survive, when actually it's the opposite way. Most Europeans couldn't make it in the land they call America or the Caribbean without the help of the blacks who they brought over as labor. But now, even that same prevailing thinking takes place in governments. When we see the American president welcome some presidents of African nations and he marveled at the fact that they speak English. Amazing, isn't it? That just gives you a glimpse into the mindset that people have about Africa and Africans and black people in general. They don't see you as equal or as someone who should be able to communicate and have intellectual abilities on par with them. But we have to learn to take pride in ourselves wherever you are around the world, wherever you're from, whether you're from South America, Europe, Africa. Take pride in yourself. Become the best version of yourself and never depend on any person, any country, any nation to be your savior. You have to learn to work to build your own life, your own future, your own communities, your own families. We're talking about why move to Africa from America if you want to live like an American. We know every year thousands of Americans, especially the black diaspora, relocate to Africa, seeking a fresh start, cultural connection, or new opportunities. But there's an odd contradiction many bring with them. They move thousands of miles away, only to try and recreate the exact same American lifestyle they left behind. And this raises the question, if you want to live like an American, why move to Africa at all? First point is, Africa is not America, and that's the point. Africa offers something America cannot: deeply rooted traditions, vibrant culture and community life, a slower, more human pace. So if you bring an American lifestyle template, which is fast-paced consumerism, hyper-individualism, and constant convenience, you risk missing the very essence of African living. If the goal is to enjoy the same malls, chain restaurants, and suburban sprawl you had in the U.S., you might as well stay in the U.S., where those systems are perfected. Moving to Africa is about embracing difference, not duplicating sameness. My second point is the power of cultural immersion. See, living like an American in Africa often means staying in insulated neighborhoods, shopping only at imported goods stores, and socializing only with other expats. While this may feel comfortable, it creates a cultural bubble that prevents you from truly experiencing your host country. You see, the beauty of Africa lies in its local markets, community events, street food, languages, and traditions. Immersing yourself in these isn't just about trying something new. It's about deepening your understanding of humanity, history, and yourself. My third point is economic reality versus imported lifestyle. Many Americans are shocked at how expensive it becomes to maintain an American lifestyle in Africa. Imported products, U.S.-style housing, and Western brand conveniences often cost more here than they do in America. So trying to replicate your old life can drain your budget quickly, while adapting to a more local way of living can significantly reduce your cost and increase your quality of life. My fourth point is the opportunity of a fresh start. You see, relocating to Africa should be about creating a new chapter, not reprinting the old one. This is a rare opportunity to reconnect with ancestral roots, learn to live sustainably, build relationships in close-knit communities, and develop new skills and perspectives. But if your house, food, social life, and habits are all replicas of what you had in the U.S., you simply moved the zip code, not your life. My fifth point is what living like an American really means abroad. The term can mean many things: quality health care, safety, good infrastructure, personal freedoms. And those are valid desires. In many African cities, are rapidly improving in these areas. But there's a difference between seeking a good standard of living and rejecting local ways of life. True relocation comes when you blend the best of your American values like innovation, professionalism, and efficiency with the richness of African traditions like hospitality, resilience, and community focus. My final thought for you, if your dream is to live in Africa, let Africa change you. Don't just import America. Import your best self. Moving here isn't about geography. It's about transformation. And transformation doesn't happen in a comfort zone. It happens when you embrace the world as it is, not as you're used to. So let this be some information you can use. If you're thinking of moving to Africa from America, make sure you move to Africa and that you leave America behind.